Hi, I'm David Blanton. Today, we're going to talk about weather and whitetails. One of the longest seminars I've ever done before was on weather and how it affects your deer hunting. And I'm basing this on my experiences at Realtree for 30 plus years. Totally my own opinions. What I have experienced, what I have seen, not what I've read in books or magazines or heard other people say. What I'm about to talk about of how weather impacts hunting whitetails and whitetail movement is based purely on my own observations and experiences. So take it for what it's worth. I am not saying it is the absolute law. I'm just telling you what I've experienced. The first thing I get asked about when it comes to weather is, David, how do you hunt deer during a full moon? It's an age-old question. Full moon, how does it affect deer movement? Well, here's what I tell people. Because I've been so blessed to do what I do here at Realtree, we're going to be out there hunting regardless of the moon phase. I'm not going to plan my schedule around a moon phase, because if I did, I wouldn't be out there as much as I need to be to get the content we need for all the stuff we do, TV shows, DVDs, whatever. We're going to be out there anyway. We're just going to deal with the moon phases as they occur. But doing that over the years, I have seen some incredibly interesting things. And here's what I will say. I believe moon phase affects whitetail movement, for sure, 100%. In particular, a full moon. Do I think deer move a little bit more during the middle of the day on a full moon than they would on another moon, like a new moon? 100%. That's my feeling. I believe that to be true. And I've seen that, just like you have, probably riding around, whether it's May or November. You see deer up on their feet feeding in the middle of the day, and you go, oh, okay, that's right, it is full moon. Okay, I think there's some truth to that. Well, I know there's some truth to that. But when it comes to hunting whitetails, I have sat, the joke in the industry is the deer in the southeast tend to be way more nocturnal than any other subspecies of the whitetail anywhere else in the country. The deer in the east, southeast. But I have sat on a food plot in my home state in Georgia here with a full moon, and I literally have had deer pile into a food plot an hour before dark. Just textbook perfect. So many deer. And it's a full moon. You look, and as it's starting to get dark, you look, and there's that big ball shining like new money is coming up over the horizon, and the deer have been out there for an hour feeding like crazy. I have been sitting in a food plot before with a new moon and have very little deer activity, when you would think, wow, these deer should be moving better than this. My point is, I think it has more to do with when the moon rises and sets. I think the closer the moon rising and the moon setting is to daylight and dusk has more to do with deer movement, not necessarily the phase of the moon. Now, I know I'm probably going to get blasted and ridiculed for saying that. I'm just telling you based on my experience. I believe it has more to do with when the moon, regardless of the phase, when the moon rises and sets, as opposed to what phase the moon is in. So now let's move to, let me ask you a question before I give it away. If I told you there was one condition that we've experienced over the years, deer hunting, trying to film, get a successful hunt, that literally we had no control over, that affected our hunts adversely what would be that one condition? And I have all these guesses: snow, blizzards, rain, moon, wind. The answer is higher than normal temperatures. So let's talk about temperatures. We can go to the finest places in the country to deer hunt. And we can go there like we have over the years, any time of year, whether it's October, November, December. If we go to an area and the temperatures are warmer than normal, let's say we go to Illinois and we're going to bow hunt the last week of October. We're fired up, it's pre-rut, we're counting on that cold front. Well, we look at the 10-day forecast, and all hunters are guilty of this. We live by that weather channel, you hear me? We got weather apps on our phone. We're always checking the weather. It's just what we do as hunters. And we look at our 10-day forecast, and we see that the temperatures in Illinois, when we're going to be out there, when the average high is 71 degrees, the average high while we're there is going to be 83. That's enough to make me want to postpone my hunt. Because one thing I have learned over the years, nothing subdues or decreases deer movement, buck movement, let's just say mature buck movement, more than warmer than normal temperatures. Nothing will cause a mature buck to lay up in his bed till well after dark more than warmer than normal temperatures. Whether it's December and you just need like 30, 35 degree temperatures for a high and it's 50, well, you'll see an incredible decline in buck movement. But let's say it's November and you're hunting in, let's say Kentucky, and the high during the day is 75 degrees. You're going to see a decrease. However, in that case, you're still going to go hunt because it's November. It's the rut. Anything can happen during the rut. We all know that. Buck movement may not be great, but you never know when that buck is leaving that doe that he's just bred and he's on the prowl for another doe. So, but higher than normal temperatures, generally speaking, is the kiss of death for a deer hunter. Even if we go out and hunt the first week of September in, say, Wyoming, where the temperatures out there typically are mid-70s for a high, we've been out there before when the highs were pushing 100 degrees. Not very often, but when that happens, even out there, you see a decrease in buck movement because of warmer than normal temperatures. So we've covered moon, we've covered temperatures. Now let's talk about wind. Depends on what part of the country you hunt in. In the southeast, the south, or the eastern part of the U.S., you get sustained winds at 15, 20 miles an hour. Deer are not going to move very much. They're not used to it. It rattles them. That's just based on my experiences. This is not scientific data. I'm just telling you, wind in the east, southeast, 15, 20 miles an hour sustained is going to really affect deer movement. You go out to the Midwest, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, wind, Oklahoma, wind is more prevalent out there. The deer, therefore, are more used to wind. It doesn't throw them a curveball like it does in other parts of the country. We've hunted deer out there successfully before in Montana, and we've had 50-mile-an-hour winds in the afternoon, straight line winds, and the deer come out and feed in alfalfa fields like it's a perfect morning, perfect afternoon. They're used to the winds. So winds are, in certain parts of the country, winds can be very, winds can really set back deer movement, but in a lot of the country where wind is not abnormal, it doesn't affect deer as much. Barometric pressure. This is something admittedly, I'll tell you, I don't understand barometric pressure much, but I do know that when you check the barometric pressure in the morning and it's rising, the deer hunting is going to be better than when barometric pressure is falling. I've always just seen better deer movement rising and a higher barometric pressure means a little less humidity. And I've always thought humidity really suppressed deer movement, especially in the east and the Midwest. So barometric pressure plays a real important role. But there is truth to the old timer saying, "Wind out of the east, fish bite least." I have heard this for years, and I have experienced this for years. Whenever we get an east wind, deer movement, in my opinion, is a lot less than what it normally is. None of these factors means that we're not going to go on a trip or we're going to sit in camp. We're going to be out there anyway. I'm just telling you things that I've experienced over the years. Not that you can control it, but when you're up there wondering why the deer not move, or why are these deer moving? Like, it's a full moon, should I hunt? Yeah, full moons, like we just mentioned, can be still awesome times to hunt deer. I just think it's more about when the moon sets and rises. So pay attention to those kind of things. Rain. Let's talk about rain real quick. Light drizzle. For some reason, to me, I love hunting in a light drizzle. I think deer love it. I think they really enjoy moving in a light drizzle. A hard, steady rain, deer bed down. But obviously, there are times when you think you've got it figured out and you go, wow, the conditions are perfect and we got this front moving in. It's going to be great. Deer are really going to be on their feet because this front's coming in, and it couldn't be further from the truth. You don't see anything, and you got a front moving in. And 3 weeks later, you've got another front moving in, and deer are on their feet moving like crazy. So there are things when it comes to weather and whitetails that we'll never be able to understand regardless of what people may claim. We may never completely understand what causes great deer movement under certain weather. But weather and whitetails, it's a very interesting topic, and it's something that we always pay attention to, but it's not going to determine when we don't hunt.